Hey guys, I'm Teak, and this is my Lightning Strike Ascended build guide. Just a fair warning, I've restarted the recording about 20 times now, and this is the one we're going with, regardless of whether I mess up or not. So if I do have a mistake, I'll definitely put an annotation in the video or on the forums. You can get the link to my forum thread in the description below. So this build revolves around using two uniques to allow us to push our lightning resist down as much as possible without the repercussions of having very negative lightning resist. And as you can see here, my lightning resist is right now at 190, negative 190. In the future, once I fill out the build here with 2 more sockets, it will be down to negative 230. Now to counter this, we use these two uniques. First being Doryani's prototype. Doryani's prototype has a unique stat: nearby enemies have lightning resist equal to yours. Basically, whatever you can push your lightning resist down to, everything else lightning resist will also match that. To counter the damage you would normally be taking as lightning, we use Eyes of the Greatwolf, which gives us 100% of lightning damage from hits taken as fire damage. Now this amulet can roll a bunch of different implicits. Make sure that if you're buying it, you get the lightning damage from hits taken as fire damage. Those are the two uniques that tie the entire build together. The other uniques that we take advantage of to push our lightning resistance down are Threads of Hope. Threads of Hope give you up to negative 20% to all elemental resistances, which plays fantastically with this build. So to start off with in the skill tree is our Threads of Hope, obviously. We use 4 large ring Threads of Hope, all with negative 20% to all elemental resistances. And we use those to pick up useful nodes, including nodes next to starting zones, so that we can take advantage of peer talents. So 4 large ring Thread of Hopes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 small ring, so 1 right here. The other one would be here. 1 very large ring right here. Grab ball pack. And then 1 medium ring here, pick up Divine Judgment for just some extra damage. That's the last step in the build. On top of those unique jewels, we use Unnatural Instinct, which is optional, not mandatory. I'm sure you could get a better rare jewel, but it gives us a bunch of attack speed, gives us some life, gives us some movement speed. Pretty good all around. For other unique jewels, as mentioned before, we use Replica Peer Talent and Peer Talent. And we connect with our Threads of Hope to the Ranger tree, to the Shadow tree, and to the Templar tree. We'll naturally be connected to the Scion tree, and we'll also be connected to Marauder, but Marauder doesn't provide us any useful bonuses. So for Ranger we get move speed, for Shadow we get crit chance, for Templar we get damage pen, and for Scion we get all attributes. And for our Replica, for Ranger we get increased flash charges gained, which doesn't really matter all that much. Helpful. We get an increased attack and cast speed from Shadow. We get chance to block attack and spell damage from Templar, and we also get 30% increased damage from Scion. So two very useful jewels. As far as the rest of the tree goes, there's 2 other jewel slots, rare jewels with crit multi, crit chance, attack speed, maximum life, any other damage stats you can get. Anything that's useful, throw in those slots, kind of whatever. As far as the rest of the tree goes, we're picking up as many life nodes as possible. We are avoiding all sources of lightning resistance because that decreases our damage. And we are picking up Acro and Phase Acro for defensive. They provide a nice little defensive layer, and we can't scale our block chance enough without going deep into the Marauder or Templar areas. So we just avoid it completely. Other things we want on the tree are the Claw Wheel, which is helpful. These nodes down here give us crit multi and crit chance, which is great. Also a chance to blind enemies up crit, which is nice, and just a bunch of damage. We anoint our Eyes of the Greatwolf with Claws of the Falcon because it's by far the strongest anointment for us. Your other options are Throat Seeker, which isn't as much damage. And I think that's probably it. I think that's it. You could also alternatively anointed with arcane blows, it's not as good. It's decent, but not great. We pick up Ash, Frost, and Storm here, which is pretty nice for a little bit of extra damage. And again, life over here, life wheel in the Scion area, and life up here as we make our way over to this last jewel slot. Life right here. So as far as the skill tree goes, that is pretty much it. The other nodes we pick up are just any sources of damage, attack speed, elemental damage, whatever it may be that you feel like is useful for the build. Got some critical strike chance against shocked enemies, which works with skitterbots, so it's pretty nice. Yeah, pick up as much damage as you can. Now onto the gear. So our best base in this helmet slot is definitely an Archdemon crown. I have two different versions here. I just crafted this one today. So this is the one that I've been using for mapping. On all of our rare gear, we want high fire and cold resist with no lightning resist. Lightning resist is the worst stat for us. We just want fire and cold. And T1 is our best bet. Max life, fantastic. Any other sources of damage you can get in helmet slot is great. And as for enchants, Lightning Strike is definitely the best for general mapping. The Lightning Strike pierces 3 additional targets. It's fantastic. It allows our Lightning Strike to travel through everything on the screen, pretty much. Without it, it feels very clunky in maps, so it's definitely a huge quality of life boost. For the damage, our damage-focused helm, Ancestral Protector Totem, is fantastic. The 18% increased attack speed is just insane. That's why you see I've spent more crafting this one, so that I could be a little bit more boss focused with this helmet and a little bit more map clear focused with the other. So I crafted this on a Warlord base. I wanted the increased elemental damage as well as global critical strike multi. You could sacrifice the global critical strike multi and craft on a Shaper base to get nearby enemies take increased elemental damage, but that just seemed like a whole lot to try to hit with increased elemental damage prefix on Warlord, so I decided to call it a day at the crit multi. So yeah, in all of our other slots, fire resist, cold resist, super important. As far as rings go, attack speed, lightning damage to attacks, life gain on hit is nice, elemental damage with attack skills is fantastic, percent lightning damage is great, but at the core, you need fire resist, cold resist, max life. Chaos resist is nice to have as well. Belt slot is pretty much the same. Max life, fire, cold resist, and increased elemental damage with attack skills or lightning damage if you can get it. You could also craft the percent damage prefix, the Leos, I believe it is. That's pretty much it for belt. For gloves, again, attack speed, high fire, high cold, maximum life, and any other damage stats you can get. I craft on spike, so I get melee damage as an implicit. You could do it on a Warlord base for the melee damage prefix as well. Or Flat Lightning. Flat Lightning is probably your best bet. I haven't had the time to run the numbers, but it's definitely very, very good. For some reason, I always forget the name of these things. Catalysts. For catalysts, you want to use resistance catalysts, so prismatic, I believe they are. Use them until you're at a comfortable level on your resists. These will be pushed down another 40 for me, so I'll be at 101 and 119, which is good for the fire. 101's a little low for cold for elemental weakness. So I may use resistance catalysts on one of these rings. But attack and elemental damage catalysts are also good depending on what stats you have on your rings. So that takes care of everything except the boots for our general armor. For boots, again, resists, move speed. I chose to craft elusive on these. Elusive is really, really good. It just gives us more dodge, so it's great to have. And max life, obviously. Crafting it on a 2-tone base is really good for extra resistances. And for an enchant, I went with dodge spell hits if you've taken spell damage recently. You could also enchant with crit if you haven't crit recently, or movement speed if you haven't been hit recently. All pretty good stats. Definitely a lot of options depending on what you prefer. So for weapon and shield now, we'll do shield first. I use the Lycosidé because it has hits cannot be evaded, which is a fantastic stat, and it allows us to not have to invest into hitting accuracy. It's also very cheap this league. It was like 40 chaos to pick up a +2 to level of socketed aura gems, which boosts skater bots and wrath, so I picked that up. It was great. I don't have to craft another claw. Fantastic option. As for our claw, it's enchanted with attack speed per 8% quality, which is really, really good. Definitely better than Fizz, because Fizz doesn't do a whole lot for us. So what we're looking for on a claw is lightning damage. I used essences to craft this. Lightning damage, elemental damage with attacks is fantastic. Percent Fizz is also decent. I think a T1% Fizz roll is actually better than the hybrid roll that I have on here, the elemental damage and elemental pen. But I decided to stick with this because I hit it in a relatively low amount of essences, and I was using essences of wrath, so hit the prefixes I wanted. Used prefixes can't be changed, and crafted with harvest the critical more likely, and ended up hitting T2 crit chance, which I felt was fine enough. Unveiled the crit multi while a rare unique enemy is nearby, and then crafted attack speed. So it's relatively easy to craft a claw. It's not as expensive as it used to be with alting and then regaling and then exalting your life away. It's definitely a lot more conservative these days. So that is pretty much it. And I recommend doing it on a Gemini Claw base because you get the life gain and mana gain on hit, which we leech anyway, but it's nice to have the extra source of life and mana generation. So that is definitely the best option in that slot is to use the Gemini Claw. Onto flasks now. For flasks, I'm just using a Seething Heat. It's totally up to you what you use in this slot. You don't need a life flask. I like to have one as an extra layer of oh shit. And I use heat just as if I'm popping a strong box or something and I get frozen, I get away. You know, I want it gone. So I just put heat on that flask. It's fine. As far as our damaging flasks go, I use silver flask and diamond flask, and it doesn't matter which stat you have on either of them, but you want crit chance and you want attack speed on any of those. So I have crit chance on my silver and attack speed on my diamond. And prefixes don't really matter. Duration's not very useful, but flash charge on crit is really, really good for silver, so I have onslaught pretty much all the time. Third flask, just utility flask. I use Quicksilver with corrupted blood removal. Haven't had the chance to pick up a Thread of Hope yet. They're super expensive still, so I will maybe get one later or get a rare jewel with it on it, and then be able to drop that suffix. But for now, we're sticking with this. Last flask, I swapped these two, so I'll use Bottled Faith for bosses. Bottled Faith is an insane flask. There's a reason why it's usually 12 plus exalts, and I got super lucky with YOLOing random divines and hit a 2% and a 10% increased damage taken, so this flask is insane. But general mapping, I just use a quartz with warding suffix on it. So it's pretty much just get rid of those curses. And I actually forgot to mention the murders, your Abyss Jewel. Basically the same thing. Max life, resists if you still need them. Crit multi, lightning damage to attacks. Fantastic. Super good jewel. This one cost me like 20-30 chaos or something like that, and it was insanely low for some reason. Nobody really using claws all that much. And lightning damage to attacks is fantastic for us. Also recovery from life leech is super good, so that was a nice little whatever you want, harvest craft that I got with that. that takes care of gear, that takes care of tree. Lastly is gems. So in our gem setup, I'll go into POB for this. So in POB, we have our main setup of Lightning Strike. So the best setup for damage-wise is Lightning Strike, Awakened Multi-Strike, Awakened Elemental Damage with attacks, Awakened Added Lightning Damage, Awakened Elemental Focus, and then for the last slot, you have a choice. You can use Fortify, which I do. You can use Ruthless, or you can use Inspiration. I recommend Fortify. Ruthless is a good choice. You might want to drop Elemental Focus or Added Lightning Damage for Ruthless. Currently, right now, I'm testing out Ruthless. I don't really like it all that much. It's better to have consistent damage. I think as far as the gems go, Inspiration is the least important. So that takes care of that. That's our setup. If you can't afford Awakened Multi-Strike, a normal Multi-Strike will do, but Awakened is just so much better. I highly recommend investing in that. I haven't bought an Awakened Elemental Damage with attacks, or I think that's it for Awakened my chest anyway. But I just haven't got around to buying them yet. I haven't felt a need to, but I will eventually. I guess we'll go on to our weapon now. In weapon, I use Phantasmal Ancestral Protector along with Empower and Enhance. The Phantasmal gives us increased buff effect, so Enhance buffs that, and Empower just gives us more levels, which gives us more attack speed. So we get a really, really good amount of attack speed when that totem is out, especially if you're running the Helm enchant to attack very, very fast, and that's without any flasks. So super good. If we flask, we're attacking insanely fast. For our shield, I use Skitterbots with Wrath linked to Unbound Ailments. So Unbound Ailments helps the shock effect that you get from Skitterbots. So it's super, super fantastic. Yeah, that's our shield, and the +2 to Aura Gems just gives it more levels. It's always great. As for helmet, I'm using Whirling Blades with faster attacks linked to Enfeeble and Hex Touch, just for general mapping. Anytime you Whirling Blade through something, it enfeebles them, so nice to take less damage. Good. That does it for helmet. Not mandatory, you can definitely use Leaf Slime in here instead if you prefer that. I like Whirling Blades. I miss Whirling Blades, so I just decided to go with it, and we have a fast weapon, so it's good. We have a lot of attack speed, so Whirling Blades is okay. In my gloves, I use Smoke Mine and Second Wind as well, because Smoke Mine's really, really good for hopping gaps and getting around the map. Smoke Mine is a fantastic skill. I highly recommend it. I use it more than Whirling Blades, but you can't curse on hit with the mine, as far as I know. So I use Whirling Blades for that. I also use Grace and Anomalous Assassin's Mark. Self-casting Assassin's Mark, you can also have it on a ring. It's an option. But I haven't got around to crafting one yet, so I just manually curse right now. Fine. Yeah, so Grace is not used, but Vol Grace is, because Vol Grace is fantastic, and I use it on pretty much every build I play. The dodge is just great. So it's definitely worth having in that slot, and we have an open slot anyway, so we have 2 open slots, so it's fine. In boots, I use Cast and Damage Taking setup with Anomalous Steel Skin and Summon Lightning Golem. And I have Steel Skin at level 18, Cast and Damage Taken at 16, and then Golem at 17. It doesn't really matter if these are leveled up or not. You could probably level them up, I just haven't. This is where I stopped. Probably level them a bit more. I have the strength for it. I have 450 strength almost, so definitely have the strength for whatever. Part of that comes from the Eyes of the Greatwolf, sorry, but even without that, if I didn't have that in, like, my strength is still pretty decent, 348, so you're pretty good. And that's pretty much it. I think I covered all the gem links. Yeah, I did. That's basically it. So if you try the build, let me know. If you have any questions, comments, improvements, let me know. either in the comments below or in the forum thread. I'll keep the forum thread updated for as long as I'm playing the build. I'll probably try it again the next couple leagues, depending on what they add for new uniques, and we'll see where it goes from there. Thanks for watching. Again, I appreciate all of you. Awesome. Have a good one.
Prove your last victory was not mere chance.